So welcome to Living a Remarkable Life. We have Marli Williams joining us today. Kevin is off to somewhere warm and tropical.
Nice. That sounds awesome.
Yes, I'm still echoing, but it wouldn't be a lab if we didn't have some type of technical issue.
Yeah, sometimes that happens in life and you just got to go, you got to keep going. You got to persevere, Rebecca, through the technical difficulties, right?
It's funny because it varies who has the issue each week. Yes.
Yeah.
And sometimes it clears up on its own. Sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
But lots of metaphors there.
For sure. So we thought this week we would talk a little bit about education.
Yeah, that sounds awesome.
And, yeah, I know you love talking to youth and doing other things. So tell me a little bit about what you do.
Yeah. So for those of you out there that I haven't met, my name is Marli Williams, and I am an educational speaker, a leadership trainer, and what I like to call an inspiration generator. I believe that this generation wants to make a difference, and they really just want the guidance, the tools, the skills, the strategies, and the inspiration and the confidence to actually do something that matters, do something remarkable with their life. And that's what I'm up to in the world. I do that by creating programs. I created a program last summer called Life Launch, which was for recent college graduates or anyone in their 20s who's asking themselves that question, what's next, right? I work in higher education. That's what my master's degree is in. And time again, I see students go through the educational system and graduate after 4, 5, or 6 years of college and still not know who they are, what they want, or how to get there.
Oh, my daughter would be one of them.
And to me, that gets me fired up because I know that they want something more, and there's just no one out there helping them figure out how to do that and how to find work that matters, how to live a meaningful life. And they've just been told to go through all of the motions, get good grades, go to a good college, and then you're going to get a good job all of a sudden. And that's not happening. And I think the way that work is shifting and changing is evolving. And I don't think the education system is keeping up with it.
Oh, bear with me here. I'm trying to unplug the microphone on this. Okay, that's not going to work. I thought that might get rid of our feedback.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So, yeah, I think that is absolutely incredible what you're doing. It's really going to help kids in the long run.
I think so. I hope so. That's the goal. Yeah.
Okay. Is that still echoing?
Not to me.
That's good. If it's not for you, then we will just leave it and keep going.
Okay. That sounds good.
Yeah. So I know I'm very passionate myself about making sure that their kids are able to discover what they want to do. I see it in my own teens as they're going through school. As I mentioned, I have one daughter in her 5th year of college, and she's still not quite sure what she's going to do. I have a 17-year-old trying to make the decisions now. What does she want to do? So how do you see the future of post-secondary education? Do we need to do something different with it? Do we need to incorporate more creativity into it?
I think that we need to ask better questions as educators. Ask students better questions in particular. I joke with my students sometimes. I work with a lot of first quarter freshmen. They go home right during Thanksgiving break. I'm sure many of them experienced this over the holiday weekend, where they go home and their aunt and uncle are sitting around the table having dinner, and they say, hey, Bobby, what are you majoring in? And he's a first quarter freshman, deer in headlights. He's like, I don't know yet, but maybe he's in a psychology class and he's really fascinated by it. And so what does he say? He's like, well, I don't know. Like I'm considering psychology. And the next question we can almost guarantee is going to be, what are you going to do with that? And not from this, I'm super curious, oh, tell me why you're interested in psychology. What about it? It's very much what are you going to do for a living, for a career? And
Mm-hmm.
and he's a first quarter freshman. And I'm like, I asked people who are over 30, how many of you knew that you would be doing what you're doing now when you were 18?
Mm-hmm.
Not many people. Probably.
That's so true.
And so I think that we need to stop putting all of the pressure on these young folks to have it all figured out. And we need to shift the conversation to curiosity and wonder.
Mm-hmm.
And I always say, you know, I ask just asking better questions. You know, sometimes students walk into my office and they don't know what they want to do for a living. They don't know what they want to major in. They're lost, alone, confused. They think that they're the only one that doesn't know. And I say, you know, I ask them things like, if you were locked in a library for 24 hours and you had to read as many books as you could, what section of the library would you go to? Mm-hmm. Or if you like had a day to yourself, how would you spend that time? But you had to learn something. So trying to help them think through their educational journey and really like claim their education, because I think that they're also going through the educational system and it's a very passive process. They're told these are the classes you have to take, these are the things you have to learn, mm-hmm. and then they get to college and they don't have the capacity or the ability to make those choices for themselves about, you know, there's 1,500 classes and you get to do 3 each quarter. That can be stressful because they haven't developed the skills to like make choice. And I think that mm-hmm. there's a really great book called The Paradox of Choice, which talks about how the more choices we have, the less satisfied we are with the ones that we make. So instead of choosing like chocolate or vanilla or, you know, teacher or lawyer, you're choosing between not just 32 flavors of ice cream, but like 300 different majors and like endless careers. And so the fear, I think, comes from, I'm going to make the wrong choice. And I say the only choice you can make, or the only wrong choice is no choice. Because
for sure,
even if you take a class in accounting because you're interested in accounting and you take it and you hate it, great. That's information. What else are you interested in? Oh, I want to take an art history class. You know, great. So take an art history class. Like, but get excited mm-hmm. about it. You know, and I just see students on college campuses right now seeing it as this like 4-year prison sentence. Like, I just have to get through this. I just have to get to the end, and then all of a sudden magical things are going to happen and I'm going to get a job that I love. And I don't think that that's happening for students. And so I really help them navigate that university experience so that they can walk away better than when they started, or more aware of themselves. I love my friend Julian Gordon. He gave a great TED Talk. He calls it the other 4.0. And he says, your major may not matter, so get a master's yourself. Mm-hmm. And that's the thing. I think if we can help young people cultivate self-awareness about their passions, their skills, their values, then they can make decisions from that place of knowing themselves. Not knowing what they want to do, but it's knowing who they want to be in the world mm-hmm. and how they want to show up. And then figuring out what are the different options based on those things that they're good at, their values, their skills, their passions, etc.
You are so completely on point with all those issues. Mm. I find that as we go through traditional schooling, we start basically telling people you can't do this, you can't do that. Mm-hmm. And when we start telling them what they can't do, we stop allowing them being able to see what they can. Mm-hmm. So we really need to bring back that ability to imagine yourself as an astronaut.
Yes.
Or anything else. When is the last time we said to each other, we're going to be an astronaut?
Right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I do see people struggling. We have such a high global youth unemployment level. This is driving me crazy. I've got so much feedback. I'm hearing myself twice. So anyways, global youth unemployment level extremely high. People are leaving post-secondary. Mm-hmm. They can't get a job. Mm-hmm. They're not excited. they're already feeling down about life because they don't know what to do and they're not finding something that meets their needs. I love the idea of being able to pick from more courses. You may want to be an accountant, but maybe you need to let go of that creative side too and take an art history, take something else that interests you.
Yeah, and that's, I mean, I currently work at a liberal arts university right now, and we have what's called the general university requirements. There are a lot of schools that have some version of this, general education requirements, whatever. And it's just so interesting because the first couple years are spent completing what's called the GURs. And students come into my office and they're like, how do I get these done with? It's like they have this box. It's like this college is this giant scavenger hunt. I just need to check all these boxes and then I'm going to get this piece of paper and then like get on with my life. Or, you know, and it's like, this is your life right now. It's happening right now. And these GURs that you just want to get done with can either be, I always say, an opportunity or an obstacle, right? It's an opportunity to learn something new, right? Like, you know that you want to be a biology major, great. And you know you want to be a doctor. But taking that art history class or that music appreciation class or a history class or something, the idea is that it creates depth and critical thinking and awareness of other people, cultures, experiences, you know, and to see that as a valuable part of their education, but they see that as like, it's in my way. And helping them shift their mindset of like, well, what does it mean to be a well-rounded global citizen of the world? And that's, I think it's just interesting because, I mean, I went to college a little over 10 years ago. And I remember when I went, it was more about going for the experience. And the experience was beyond the classroom. It was, I just remember like, oh, it's like who you meet. It's all these different people from different walks of life. You know, like you grow up in your neighborhood or your school or your community, and it's pretty homogenous. And then the idea of going to college, oh, you get to meet all these different people. And I think, you know, that is such a critical component of that experience, is the ability to get along with other people, the ability to communicate with people who might have a different perspective. And those are like the interpersonal transferable skills that are harder to pinpoint other than like, oh, I took this class. It's like, oh, I learned how to, you know, talk with and get along with all sorts of different people. And that's such a valuable skill to have. If you have your own business, if you work for someone, most people don't quit jobs, they quit bosses. Or they quit, for sure. Like they don't feel supported, you know, all these different reasons. It's not because they can't do the job. And so those skills, I think, are really, really critical for students to see the value in and how to develop those.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
And I think we should explain a little bit. I'm in Canada, so we have we have colleges, which are usually more vocational focused, and then we have universities, which I believe you refer to as colleges in the US, correct? Yeah,
I mean, college and university are a bit interchangeable. We do have a community college system, which is a 2-year degree. And some of those are just, you know, it's called an associate's degree. And some of those are just like going and taking a certain amount of classes. Some are technical colleges where they get a technical degree. And then 4-year colleges or universities, like, there's Evergreen College and then there's Western Washington University. Both are 4-year schools. So I guess that's...
Okay, so we basically have 2 or 3-year diploma colleges. And then our universities are 4 years. And we also have university college partnerships where you might have 2 years of college and then 2 or 3 years of university on top. So it's a little bit different, but the end goal is to give students the knowledge they need to be able to go out into their fields. Our college is looking to do a better job of preparing them to be job ready. But overall, they all need to be doing things to inspire students a little bit more.
I completely agree. It just blows my mind that, you know, college should be this really exciting, eye-opening time.
Mm-hmm.
I remember being in college, and yeah, like I had tests I had to study for, I had work I had to do, but overall, like I was stoked. And also, I'm just stoked in general, so maybe that's just me. But I was like, this is the coolest thing ever. There's like events every week, there's lectures, there's concerts, there's programs, there's all of these different things going on that really help you develop who you are and what you want to be. And it's all of those outside of the classroom experiences too that I think really cultivate that self-awareness. You know,
I fully believe in the outside of the classroom
and volunteering,
the more you can do,
or doing it, like having internships. I mean, having those meaningful, hands-on, tangible experiences. And I honestly think that is what students are looking for, that they're not getting. That really helps make their education come to life and see the reason behind what they're learning and how that's going to impact their future or their career or what it is that they want to do. Yeah.
It's a little bit like when you go to events. Sometimes the best conversations or the best part of the event are the hallway conversations.
Yeah.
It's where you really get to know people. You find out a little bit extra information, and it just keeps you going.
Yeah.
So it's those non-college college events that really are the reason to me to go. And as I help my kids choose their own colleges, I ask them to look, what else does the college offer you other than the education? We know the education is there, but what else is available?
Right.
What are you going to get to go to this school versus that school? What are the extra opportunities?
Right.
And how do we encourage them to take advantage of those opportunities?
Yeah.
There's so many times where there's a ton of free events at our college, but they don't come out. The students don't come out. How do we encourage them? Hey, this is a free event. Go learn, go meet people. This is going to help you in the future.
Yeah. And they're sitting in their dorm room watching Netflix and kicking it. And I mean, I talk to my students about that all the time because I'm like, why? Like I ask them like, and they're just like, yeah, I'm just lazy. I'm like, well, it's good that you're aware of that. But what are you going to do about it? You know? And every time I encourage them to go, I give them extra credit, all these different things. And they go and they're like, oh my gosh, that was amazing. So it's like, if you can encourage them to go to one or two things that they get how incredible those things are, then hopefully they'll go in the future and they'll learn and they'll see the value in doing that. But the other thing that you mentioned is the having conversations with other real life humans. And I see students really having a hard time with that, having a hard time connecting with people not on social media and using technology, which, you know, I think it's great to have that, but the ability to network and connect really with other people on their college campus, whether that's their peers, mentors, advisors, professors. Like it's those advisors and those mentors and those professors that are going to be able to open those doors or to help you land that internship or to see that next opportunity that you don't even know you're aware of. But if you aren't building those relationships like the whole time you're there, I think that's a huge part of the college experience too, is that access point to those other people, their networks. You know, if you build a relationship with a professor and they know someone who does research at Yale or wherever, you know, then you have an in, you know. I mean, those relationships, I really do believe open those doors for students. So helping them develop the confidence to connect with each other and with their mentors and with those professors and building those relationships, I think is so, so valuable to that experience as well.
So we have a quick question on the sidebar. They're just asking about my t-shirt, Socialite.
Oh, yeah.
Just really quickly. Socialite is a conference that's held in Toronto and now also in Vancouver. And it is about leaders impacting global humanity. I can't remember what the T stands for. But it's all about leadership and having that global impact. And we have a lot of university and college students that come out to it, as well as people all across the different ages. It was just held last Saturday. Wonderful event.
Awesome.
So Seth Godin came to speak. I was so happy to meet him.
Oh, wow. That's awesome. That's great.
Yeah. So back to what we're talking about. What do you think we can do to help students see the value of building relationships?
Well, besides giving them an assignment, which is what I do, it's fascinating. I do give them an assignment where they have to go interview one of their professors. Mm-hmm. And I talk about informational interviews and coming up with interesting questions. What do you want to know? What do you want to find out about? And, 100% of the time, well, most of them are terrified to go and talk to their professors. Mm-hmm. And so I think unpacking that fear of maybe they're in a big lecture hall and they're like, they don't know who I am. And saying it's okay to be scared. And I talk about courage. Courage isn't not being afraid. Courage is being afraid and doing it anyway. And that
my friend Billy Anderson speaks on courage and says exactly that.
Yeah.
He says, if you stop being afraid, you're no longer having your courage, basically.
Yeah, exactly.
So you always need to be afraid and you always need to be conquering your fears.
So we talk about building that courage muscle. And when you build that courage muscle, it also, I think, simultaneously builds your confidence. And so I give them this assignment. We talk about it's okay to be scared. You're going to do it anyway. I promise you won't get attacked by a lion. Everything's going to be okay. And they go.
No lion, just the teacher. So.
Just the teacher. They go the office hours. They have these conversations, and then I get the papers back, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, my professor likes the trail run too," or "Oh, we both grew up in Iowa," or whatever. They start to see the connections that they have with their professors. And when you connect with your professors, you also engage in a different way, and you show up and you pay attention, and maybe you sit in front now, and then you do better on the next test, and then you do better in the class, and then you have a better time learning. Yeah. It's I think, again, it's that entry point of you don't, maybe I'm not going to say you have to go meet everyone on campus, but I say have one conversation with a professor in a field that you're interested in pursuing. Have one.
Do you think part of the problem is that they're not feeling they can approach other people?
Yeah, I think that they're scared. I mean, I think that they, like I said, we've lost the art of the ability to have a conversation, a real live human to human conversation, because so much conversation is happening online that I think that they're just losing the ability to do that. Or maybe they want to, but they don't know what to say, or they think they're going to say the wrong thing. Or what if my professor, or what if they're not doing good in the class? And their fear of judgment and embarrassment. I know that some people don't want to go in office hours because of that, and that's why I say the first 3 weeks of your semester or quarter to go in and just introduce yourself. Say, I'm really excited about taking this class, and I look forward to what I have to learn. And
for sure. It's very hard.
That's
very scary when you're approaching someone, especially if you feel maybe they're not very available. And that could be a blocking point too. You don't want to interrupt or bug people.
Right. And that's hard. I mean, I think that there are some professors that are definitely more approachable than others. And so, maybe I say start with someone who you think might be more approachable. You don't have to go climb Everest, just go climb the mountain over here kind of thing, and build up your confidence before you go and do the next, because if you have a positive experience, you're more likely to continue to do it. But if you go and you have a negative experience with that professor who might be more intimidating, it would be harder to keep doing that.
For sure.
And so
it's something I encourage my kids to do early on. I tell them, go talk to your teacher. If you don't understand something, ask questions. Ask him what you can do. Ask him to practice, or her. And it really seems to help. Something else that one of my early teachers taught me, check their math. My children have been shorted marks before. So they then get to talk to the teacher and they get the better mark. It's all about building that relationship. And if you can start it earlier in elementary school, it will help carry through.
Right.
If you don't start approaching teachers or talking to teachers until university or college, it's very hard to change that mindset that, hey, I could talk to these people.
Yeah.
in a few years, you could be colleagues with these people, which is even weirder.
Right. And I think it's about learning to be a self-advocate, you know, to say, you know, I sometimes I think about college is the only place that we pay a ridiculous amount of money, like a lot of money, for an education or for this experience, and we expect less of it. You know, we pay to go to conferences and we're like, I want to get as much as I can out of this. Or we pay for, you know, a really nice TV and we're like, I want it to be the best thing. And if it doesn't work, then you call our customer service and say it doesn't work. You know, if something isn't working for you, to be able to approach your professor and claim your education and say, hey, will you explain this to me? Like, this is your, like, that is what they're there for. That is what office hours are for. But some of the language, like, well, what is office hours? Like, this idea of I want to interrupt them or because they're doing work. And so we've thought about how do we even shift the language to calling it student hours. These are hours for you.
Shifting language, that is absolutely perfect way to describe it.
Yeah, and I think that helping students, and I particularly work with students that are the first in their family to go to college. And so this you know, college has all of these foreign languages and foreign terms like office hours. They've never had office hours. And they had teachers in their classrooms with, you know, 20, 30 students, and their teachers knew their name. And here they go to, you know, there's office hours and they're professors, and there's like, you know, this intimidation factor that I think it can be really hard to overcome that. So how do we shift language, or how do we help professors, what I call like teaching professors how to build learning communities?
For sure. We really need those learning communities.
That's been something that I've really struggled with in higher education, is that professors don't need to have a degree in adult learning theory or like all of these things that I think really enhance the educational experience. They just need to be knowledgeable in their subject. And that doesn't make them a good teacher necessarily. But doing things at the beginning of class, like 1 minute exercises where it's like turn to your neighbor and share what you learned from the reading that you did last night.
Oh, I think
introduce yourself and share one thing that you learned. And it's just like in 1 minute, if you did 60 seconds every day before you started class and you created a ritual or something like that, you get people connected, engaged to their learning, paying attention, woken up, you know, especially in a big lecture hall, you can do that. But it's like professors have to be willing to give up that control and then be able to draw them back in. And it's a skill, but it's not hard to develop. And I think that there's a lot of value in those types of engagement experiences inside the classroom to help students really think about what they're learning in a more meaningful way and to connect with each other, right? It's like opening that door for connection is so valuable. You know, not everybody's going to turn to their neighbor while they're waiting for the professor and say, hi, I'm Marli. It's nice to meet you. What'd you learn in the book last night?
Well,
if the professor invites, we might, but not most people.
Do you remember how we met?
Yeah.
Probably not. Do you remember last year that girl who was going around with a big whiteboard asking questions at WDS?
Yeah.
That was me.
Oh.
So I remember you from last year because I was the one who was getting out of my comfort zone, and I decided I was going to go and talk to as many people as I could. And I knew nobody that year. So that little push, that little bit of bravery has let me meet a ton of people. And if we can encourage our kids in class by just saying, hey, say hi to your neighbor, share something with them, then that is so amazing, and that will lead them through life. Yes.
Exactly. Building that little muscle of courage and confidence when you do those things and you're like, oh, wow, like that was awesome.
And it doesn't have to be so severe of an issue that introverts are going to be scared off and extroverts are going to be like over aggressive or something. It's just as simple as turning to someone and saying hi, sharing one thing. It's not standing up in front of the class. It's not talking to a group of 10 or 20 people. It's having a conversation with one person.
Yeah, exactly. I agree. Good stuff.
Yes. So what else do we want to talk about?
What else do we want to talk about, Rebecca? There's so many things.
Tell me about Life Launch. I'd love to hear a little bit more about what you're doing with it.
Yeah. So last year, so this was just an idea that I had to help recent college graduates help launch into their life after graduation and really have a better sense of who they are, what they want, and how to get there. And what it was a 4-day retreat in the North Cascades Mountains here in Washington State. And at this beautiful, it was called the North Cascades Institute. So it's this beautiful facility in the mountains. And it's just a great place to take a step back and reflect on their college experience and really think about how did I grow? What did I learn? Mm-hmm. And really the three main questions that were asked over the course of those days are, who am I? So the first day was really about self-awareness mm-hmm. and cultivating that. What are my strengths, my values, my skills, my passions, all these things. Telling your story. So we told our life stories around a campfire that first night of where are you? What is your story? The next day we talked about what do you really want? So things like what does success mean to you? Mm-hmm. And we created vision boards.
I love vision boards.
And we talked about all of these things where it's like, for some people that's making a lot of money. For some people it's traveling. For some people it's having a family. But it's like whatever mountain you're climbing, make sure it's your mountain and not just the thing that you think you're supposed mm-hmm. to do to make someone else happy or to make society accept you. Because if you're ultimately chasing something else, you're not going to be fulfilled. You're not going to be happy. And that's really the whole point. And so it's like knowing what is the mountain you're climbing? What does success mean to you? And then that last day was like, how are you going to get there? And so then we did some practical things. We talked about, how to network like mm-hmm. a pro kind of thing, like how to connect with anyone and building that courage and confidence to do those informational interviews. So finding those people that are in the career field that you're interested in and reaching out to them, having conversations with them, asking them some really good questions. We did some resumes, cover letters, LinkedIn, that whole kind of like all of those, I don't know, like the nuts and bolts of, well, great. You know who you are, you know where you want to go, but now it's like the how part kind of.
And it's not something that's taught in school.
Mm-mm. And then, in the midst of all of that, we went hiking. Every morning we did like a morning ritual. So the first day we did yoga. The second day we had a morning dance party. And then the last day we jumped in this freezing cold lake together. And we talked about starting your day on purpose, starting your life on purpose. You don't have to wait to have the perfect job to start living your life right now.
For sure.
As you're applying for jobs and working at Starbucks, like your life is happening right now and what you do every day matters. And so it was this amazing 4-day experience. And the last day we had this beautiful circle where everyone it was like I call it like a love fest where they appreciated each other and they said, here's what I see your strengths are and here's where I see you going. And thank you for bringing your kindness and your wisdom and your creativity. And, and it was just really beautiful to see them walk away with more confidence, courage, and clarity in who they are, what they want, and how to get there. And so my hope, it was a really small group this year, but it was awesome and intimate mm-hmm. and wonderful in so many ways. But I want to create what I'm going to call the Life Launch Leadership Summit.
Oh, that sounds amazing.
This summer, where we talk about all of those things and have like many workshops and talks, but they still have a small group mm-hmm. and they have a small group facilitator where they go and they do these different kind of components of the curriculum, where they're diving into these things in a deeper way.
That sounds awesome.
So that's my vision for this summer, hoping to get, if my goal for the program is that if anyone meets a recent college graduate or someone who's about to graduate and they say, I have no idea what I want to do, they're like, oh my gosh, you got to go to this Life Launch thing. It's amazing. It'll blow your mind. So that's like what I want to create because I really want to help this generation launch into their life and take those next steps with confidence and conviction and courage and clarity and all these things instead of fear and anxiety and pressure. It's so sad that at such a young age, students young people are walking around feeling, like you were saying, kind of
they're
lonely,
so
isolated,
anxious,
depressed, unsure.
their life's already over, and they're
so
not even out of high
anxious. And I'm just
school.
like, everything is going to be
It
okay.
will be.
I promise. Like, you know, but you have to just take, and one of my things that I tell students is it's more important to take imperfect action than perfect inaction.
Absolutely. I know that from my own experience.
That's scary.
I see the anxiety in the kids, and I see them with a greater need, not only to discover who they can be, but also to develop some of the basic skills, even financial literacy. They don't have that. It's not being taught. They feel completely lost. They're stressed out of their minds, and they haven't even got to adulthood yet. It's not a good way to be. And I'm also working on my own program called Entrelaunch, where I'm working with youth aged 10 to 18. So I'm trying to hit them before college to help them build their own self-empowerment, entrepreneurial skills, and basic life skills. So we're working on that over here.
Awesome. I love it. I think that's so great. And you know what I see with Life Launch is bringing in those experts or those people that, you know, helping you develop a budget for yourself. And, you know, like, it's like the budget, the resume, the cover letter, like, but those life skills where when and how do we ever learn those basic things? And it just blows my mind that
even basic nutrition, people
are graduating from the education system and not having those skills. And I think that's really, you know, it's a disservice to students and to young people. They're being launched into their life without much.
I saw a post this morning.
Practical wisdom.
and it just seemed to be very much reality. Someone was posting about how they're in their late 20s and they don't have kids, and their friends don't, and they don't know how their friends would, because their friends can barely take care of themselves. And it's that line, the friends can barely take care of themselves. It scares me a little bit. It sounds like we're not preparing the next generation to really be able to take care of themselves, with helicopter parenting and squishing people down, saying, no, you can't do this, you can't do that. I know teens who are not even allowed to ride a bus by themselves. Yet in 3 years, we'll throw them out the door to college. We don't prepare them, and they're going to get into trouble because they have no idea how to take care of themselves or do things for themselves.
Yeah, I think it's so important to help students build those skills.
Because our kids are brilliant. They are absolutely brilliant. And they have so much creativity and untapped energy inside of them. We just have to help guide them along and stop telling them they can't do it.
And it's amazing. I mean, I have students often come into my office, and this is just one really tangible example of parents that want this certain path for their kid. She comes in and she's like trying to major in business, has over 100 credits, but can't declare the major because she doesn't have the GPA she needs, and keeps getting like C's and D's in these accounting and economics courses. And I'm like, it doesn't really seem like you're into this. And she's like, well, I'm not really. My parents want me to major in business. And I'm like, well, what do you want to major in? And she's like, I don't know. And she says, I grew up in this town, and there was this store. It was really, really cool. It had all this stuff. It had flowers, but it had these like kind of antique things. And she was like describing like in detail this store. And she's like, so I've kind of thought about like maybe art history or something. And so we pull up the art history major, like what it describes. And I read it out loud, and almost to a T, it described exactly what she said that she's interested in, like art and artifacts and you know, and she talked about museums. And, you know, I asked her that question, if you were stuck in a library, what books would you read and all these things. And her face just like completely lit up. And I was like, you can own your own business. Like, you could create a store like this if you wanted, if that's what you really want to do. And there's a new entrepreneurship minor here on campus that you can major in art history and minor in entrepreneurship and have the time of your life, and you don't have to take any more accounting and economics, you know. But I think the other thing is like, I think young people only know what they know, and they don't always know the possibilities or what's out there.
How do you know what's possible if you haven't been exposed?
Yeah, and I always say, like, what you were saying, it's like, if you're really good at something and you're really passionate, you can find a way to make a living doing it. And I think it drives me crazy when I hear that students at such a young age, like, yeah, their dreams, their goals are getting squandered by parents out of fear instead of like love. You know, like I think the goal should be that you find, one of my favorite quotes is, your work is to find your work, and then with all of your heart, give yourself to it.
Agreed.
Your work is to find your work. And that is why you're in college. And so, like, go out there and get after it and try to figure out, like, what it is that you really love? What is it that you really want? And it's hard sometimes when I hear these stories from students who their parents are wanting them to go down this certain path because that's the path of stability and security. But no.
There's no security anymore.
Do you want your kid to be... No, there's no security. And would you rather see your kid be an accountant and be miserable, or own their own little shop and build community and have the time of their freaking lives?
Exactly.
Like, what would you rather want as a parent? You know what I mean? And I'm like, and I think all of those, the whole, like, what are you going to do with that? Those questions come from a place of fear. And I really encourage students, like, don't let their fear be your fear.
For sure. And the other thing we have to think about is the fact that a lot of the jobs of the future don't even exist yet. So how do you know what to take when it's not going to be there? Like social media manager. Who would have thought that would have been a job 10 years ago?
Right. You know, like, if you love Facebook and Twitter, like, you can get paid to do that for a living. You honestly can, and you can get paid really well. Or, you know, when I see these students that want to major in English or creative writing, and I'm like, I think about copywriters and copy editors for all these blogs and magazines and online things. A lot of them don't even know that that's a thing. And you can work from home and make a good amount of money doing that. But that's what I said at the beginning. I think, like, the way that the world of work, it's shifting. And I don't think the educational system is helping students see those kind of unconventional paths.
For sure. We actually have Life Coach in the side feed talking about that same thing. The educational system is broken on teaching kids potential and how to succeed. And sadly, I think it's true. We need to do more to teach them their potential. The other thing that I find is very important to discuss is the fact that if you're from a small town and you've never been exposed to certain careers, how do you even think of that as a possibility? For tech, for example, if you know nobody who works in tech, why would that be a career option to you? Because you have no idea what it is. So we need to expose our kids to more opportunities, to what is possible, to that outside the box thinking.
Right. And I see students, I mean, when I bring in guest speakers into my class about, you know, I have a friend who's a doctor, and she came in and she told the students her story and her path, and they, like, lit up. And I think it's fascinating. You know, she majored in sociology and Spanish for her undergrad degree, and then went on to do a post-bac in pre-med. And now she's a doctor. But everybody sees, like, oh, I have to major in biology if I want to be a doctor, and they don't see these other paths. And so I think when students can hear other people's journey on how they got to where they are and what some of those options are, I think that is powerful in opening up their mind and their awareness to what they can do. And that there isn't just one way to get from point A to point B, and there is no point A to point B. You know, it's like, you kind of, instead of like from here to here, it's like here and then over here, and then I went over and then, oh, here, you know. And I think that's the helping them be okay that the journey isn't necessarily super straightforward. You know, that they're on their path, they're on their way. And
oh, for sure.
I think that there's a lot of value in them hearing those stories, for sure.
I love to share stories, and I love to hear how people ended up where they are today. So if you're a life coach, what led you to that? If you're a lawyer, What made you decide law was the path? Was it because you witnessed an injustice? Was it because you liked money? Is it because your dad's a lawyer? Like, it could be as simple as that, but let's hear what your story is. What has led you down your path? What has helped form your life experiences? So I know for myself, I go right back to being a teen mom at age 16 and always having to push forward and do everything I can to get to where I am today. So you just have to keep pushing. I know other people who have went on to do amazing things that are completely different from what their education is. And it's interesting to see where those paths change.
Yeah. And I think when students can hear those stories, I think it really does expose them to, helps them get out of that linear thinking of how it's supposed to be. You know, I go to college, I major in accounting, and I become an accountant. You know, usually it's like, oh, I went to college and I majored in sociology, and then I did this internship, and then I did a rotation in like this hospital, and then I really discovered my love for medicine. It's like, I think that there's this assumption that the people that have figured it out, like, they always knew. And I think that there are those people that like always knew, but I think the people that didn't are like constantly asking questions, like, you know, and like I said, from that place of wonder and curiosity, like, I wonder what I'm meant to do with my life. You know, I wonder, like, what am I really passionate about? What lights me up? What makes me come alive? Who's someone in my world or that I look up to or has a career? You know, maybe it's your parents' friend who is a realtor and you're like, wow, that sounds fascinating, showing people's houses. Like, ask them out for coffee, talk to them, you know, ask better questions, meet people, get out there and expose yourself to those things. And I think one of the other things that I love to tell students is pay attention to what captures your attention.
Yes.
And what are you drawn to? What do you spend time thinking about, looking at? Like, I mean, from books to movies to people, it's about, I think it's like cultivating that mindfulness and paying attention to those moments where you're like, oh, this is it. And not ignoring it, not ignoring it, but listening and tuning in, because I think our intuition is powerful.
Sorry, that's my kids.
More than we do.
They're playing Minecraft in the other room. Yeah, he's a little loud at times, and my mic's a little sensitive, I think.
Yeah, that's all right.
But yeah. No, it's definitely, we need to expose them as much as we can, and we need to make sure that we're brave enough to have conversations with other people and find out what's happening. Yes. Events are an absolutely wonderful way to do it, and striking out conversations with strangers, coming on things like Lab, joining in the conversation, Twitter chat. Yeah. They're all great ways to learn things. And of course, reading. So we're near the top of the hour, and I think we're about ready to finish for today. Can you share a tip and a favorite book?
Tip and a favorite book. Ooh. Let's see. Well, I think if you're, I don't know, are there educators out there? I think really encouraging students to connect with other people. I think that is such a valuable skill to have. And I think that that's what opens the doors to helping them build confidence, courage, and clarity in who they are and what they want and where to go, how to get there. So I think encouraging them to connect with other people and being that connector for them. If you hear that they're interested in graphic design, you know, I invited my friend out for coffee who's a graphic designer last week, and we hung out. And now I have a student who's going to be my intern to do graphic design for me. And I'm like, oh, this is great.
That's awesome.
So it can be mutually beneficial. Oh, books. Favorite book. I'm like looking at my bookshelf over there. I love two authors. One, Brene Brown. She's amazing. Daring Greatly is such a powerful book for really just going for it and being in the arena. I think that that's like such a valuable skill to teach students, to dare greatly in your life and in college and to take those
for risks. Sure.
And I love Danielle Laporte's book, The Firestarter Sessions. I have those two on my shelf right now. That's what I was looking at. But
I have neither ones of those,
yeah.
but I have both of them on my reading list.
Well, that's good.
I'm back at, what am I reading?
same
The
page.
8th Habit by Stephen Covey right now. Yes, and I've just
Awesome.
finished Think and Grow
Yeah.
Rich, and
Oh, how was? I want to know more about that. We should have a chat about it.
it was good. It was good. I'm going for the first part of the courses in December. So I'm going to take a Think and Grow Rich
excellent.
course, and I'm really excited about it. It really is all about changing your mindset. And it's something that I'm having my kids read too. So my teenagers are going to read that.
Awesome.
Because when you change your mindset and you start thinking positive, you start visualizing things that are in front of you and visualizing where you want your life to go, it completely changes what happens and things start coming to you. And you're also following a little bit of your passion as well, which is absolutely awesome.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Mindset is huge. That's one of the things. Growth mindset. Mindset by Carol Dweck. I'm sure you've heard of it.
I don't think I have.
That book. Mindset by Carol Dweck, and she talks about this idea, this concept of growth mindset, and I teach all of my students
Okay,
this.
I have to look that one
up.
up.
And it's super, super powerful. So I would check that one out too, as you were speaking about mindset.
Okay, well, thank you everybody for joining us today. Thank you, Marli Williams. We will put a replay of this up at www.rebeccapalmer.ca. And Marli, I don't know if you have a website or not.
Yeah, it's www.marliwilliams.com. You can check out what I'm up to over there, and there's more info about Life Launch there as well.
Awesome, and you can find us both on Twitter as well. We will be joined next week by another special guest host, as Kevin's still away in somewhere warm. It's a little cold here in Canada right now. And we're on every Saturday morning at 11 a.m., 9 a.m. PST. So thanks for joining us.
Thank you.